coordinate and harmonize all its allied activities, with all unions made to re-register with the Ministry of Transportation in line with international best practice and the nation's corporate laws.
Local state government has paid a total of 5.017 billion naira to about 12,191 pensioners captured in its database under the non-contributory pension scheme between January and June this year. Minister of Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs has assured that the ministry will continue to elicit effective management of the chieftaincy institution in the state. Commissioner in the ministry, Honorable Afolabi Afakwe, and the Permanent Secretary, Bureau of Local Government Pensions, Mrs. Folashade Kokumo, made us known during the half-year budget assessment at the State House of Assembly. Again, Kola Wole Osho's report is presented in this package.
Permanent Secretary, Bureau of Local Government Pensions, Mrs. Irene Folashade Kokumo, while reeling out the achievements of the Bureau, said the Bureau was poised to making life more abundant for retirees through effective coordination and prompt payment of monthly pensions, and had complied all outstanding gratuities and death pensions till date.
The capital. The total amount approved for the capital is 27 million. And up till now, we have expended 4,990,352 naira only, which is 36.97%.
Similarly, the State Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, Afolabi Afakwe, equally defended the 2020 budget performance of the ministry, with an assurance that the ministry would continue to elicit effective management of the chieftaincy institution, hence the need to strategize towards establishing chieftaincy tribunal to address litigations on chieftaincy matters in the state. He assures that the ministry would continue to provide effective monitoring of the 20 local government councils for the promotion of transparency and accountability, ensure wealth creation, employment creation, poverty eradication, and value orientation programs in all the local government areas.
It detailed our capital expenditure, which has approved earlier all to be 100,102,932 kobo. But till 30/6/2020, we expended just 681,500. And that's about 0.68%.
The lawmakers also appraised the 2020 budget performance of the Local Government Service Commission as presented by the Permanent Secretary, Dr. Kasali Olabimton.
The recent announcement of the increase in the pump price of fuel by the Petroleum Products Marketing Company was met with a lot of criticism by Nigerians. In the special report, Matthew Shomi seeks the opinion of stakeholders in the petroleum industry and Nigerians on what needs to be done to stabilize the price as the subsidy regime gives way for total deregulation of the downstream sector of the industry. His report.
Having commenced the implementation of the policy of total removal of subsidy and complete deregulation of the downstream sector, the increase in the pump price of fuel brought about by the steady rise in the price of crude oil in the international markets did not come to many as a surprise. What has brought about different reactions from Nigerians is the timing for the increase, as many continue to cope with the new economic reality caused by the outbreak of coronavirus. However, stakeholders in the industry are of the view that removal of subsidy is a reality that the nation must be ready to face now.
Since Nigeria has decided to remove subsidy totally from the fuel pricing regime, definitely as it goes up over there and we still rely on importation, definitely we will be having this type of experience.
There was a time the price of crude oil went down, and they reduced the pump price to 125. I personally, I can say that I do a little bit of petroleum because I have a filling station, and I lost 1.7 million there.
We produce. It's as if I'm a farmer. I don't have any other instrument to process my cassava. I sell my cassava to you. I sell at a exorbitant price. But I need gari. So whenever you want to sell gari for me, I cannot determine what to sell.
They call on government at all levels to do more in the area of palliatives for the people to cope with the effects of the hike in price on the living standard of the people.
But I think with time, we have a lot of projects. Dangote refinery is coming up, and other refineries. I believe it's just some time. When it gets to that time, there'll be a little bit of stability where we start doing things our own way. When we are now refining our own crude oil locally, I think. But that will take time.
The quantum of such of the value should be placed to be seen as being made use of, maybe on infrastructural projects or some other aspects of Nigeria.
So by the time government remove its hands and allow private companies to handle things, there will be competition.
The government will no doubt need to look inward to build local capacity in the production of petroleum products by encouraging more private sector participation. Matthew Showmi, Ogtv News.
To come, National Broadcasting Commission fines Nigeria Info 5 million naira. More news and reports after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Ogtv Main News. We are on 260 on DSTV, 100 on GoTV, and 25 UHF on terrestrial. Moving ahead, President Muhammadu Buhari says more resources will be allocated by the federal government towards the completion of infrastructural projects across the country, especially those being undertaken by local contractors, as technology has a deliberate attempt at sustaining creation of jobs for Nigerians. This was at the virtual inauguration of the new headquarters of the Nigeria Content Development and Monitoring Board in Bayelsa State. The iconic 17-story building known as the Nigerian Content Tower, with the full complement of a 10-megawatt gas power pipeline and 1,000-seater capacity conference center, was inaugurated by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva, on behalf of the President. Addressing participants at the ceremony virtually, President Muhammadu Buhari said the completion of the project reflects his administration's infrastructural development drive towards attracting investment, creating jobs, and further enhancing efforts at lifting millions of Nigerians out of poverty. Describing local content as critical in all activities of Nigeria's national life, especially with the prevalence of coronavirus pandemic, the President expressed the belief that production and patronage of goods and services locally are part of the surest ways to empower the citizens and give them viable opportunities to excel in their chosen professions and business endeavors.
The Nigerian Content Board for the successes recorded in the last 10 years since its formation. The edifice is a befitting birthday gift as you mark your 10th year anniversary as a regulator and developer of local content in the oil and gas industry.
Already, it cites 2 executive bills have been issued relating to enforcing local content in public procurement, in contrast towards further replicating the successes being realized in the oil and gas sector. President Buhari congratulated the people of Bayelsa State for being the proud host of the landmark edifice in the heart of the Niger Delta. The federal government has tasked Nigerian youth to embrace vocational and skill acquisition as a way of addressing the rising challenges of unemployment in the country. The call was made against the backdrop of COVID-19 pandemic that has pulled the world economy far backwards, which Nigeria is not an exception, with the consequential job losses across different sectors of the economy. Permanent Secretary, Federal Minister of Education, Architect Sonny Echona, spoke while declaring open a 2-day workshop on cultural creativity for youth skills development, organized by the Nigerian National Commission for UNESCO on Thursday in Abuja. Hundreds of youth were expected to be trained in carpentry, bakery, shoe and bag making, cloth making and bead making at the workshop, which the Permanent Secretary recommended that it should be carried out across the states in order to empower Nigerian youth and cultural creativity for sustainable development and self-employment. He noted that in today's highly competitive world, the success of the economy of a nation depends increasingly on the ability to create and innovate, saying one of the approaches of the present administration towards achieving its agenda of economic recovery and growth plan is skill acquisition and job creation for its teeming youth population and sustainable development. The strategic importance of the media to the overall well-being of any nation is such that requires the activities of stakeholders in the industry be properly regulated in accordance with the Constitution. The jaw of the Special Advisor to Ogun State Governor on Public Communications, Honorable Remi Azan, and a media practitioner, Mr. Eddie Aina, made this submission while discussing the hate speech bill on Ogtv political discussion program, Democratic Path. Honorable Hazan said the freedom of speech has given enough room for the media to perform its role of watching on the society, but whenever anyone goes beyond the allowed threshold, there should be mechanism in place to regulate such.
I understand that government needs to do the needful to bring people to line, but taking it off course may not be the solution, because the real agents of hate speech are on the internet, and they're having a field day there. If you block one side, they're on another side the next day.
Mr. Aino said there are both the good and bad aspects of the NBC code, which should be worked upon by taking inputs from stakeholders.
Before, we didn't have problems of hate speech or this fake news on air. Even if we had it, the magnitude was not as what we have now. And the reason being that every morning, if the station had not reviewed the newspapers, and you review newspapers, you bring in analysts. These analysts are coming from different backgrounds, different interests. They are either pro-democracy activists or analysts who have their, from the universities, or from the media, either GOP or whatever. I think it's this group that are really compounded the problem.
They called for responsible journalism and media practice. The federal government will soon commence the implementation of Wawa Zangai Grazing Reserve Project, which will be the pilot project of the National Livestock Transformation Scheme in Gombe State. The Minister of Agriculture, Haji Mohammed Sabo Nanono, who disclosed this to Governor Inuwa Yahaya of Gombe State in Abuja, said the Wawa Zangai project is one of the key projects of the federal government for the Northeast. Nanono acknowledged the efforts of the governor to revitalize the agricultural sector and improve farming activities and animal production, and assured him of federal government's continued support and collaboration. Governor Yahya has already keyed Gombe State into all federal government agricultural programs, projects, and initiatives. Hence, his regular engagement with the Federal Minister of Agriculture to review progress and strengthen collaboration for the benefit of farmers and the entire citizenry. He held discussions with the minister and other officials of the ministry on the progress so far made and new areas of collaboration in the efforts of his administration to revamp the agricultural sector and ensure food security. The National Broadcasting Commission has fined a radio station, Nigeria Info, 5 million naira for a recent comment made by former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Dr. Obadiah Mailafia. This is contained in a statement signed by the NBC management on Thursday. The Commission recently unveiled its review broadcasting code in Lagos and raised the fine for the hate speech from 500,000 naira to 5 million naira. Dr. Mailafia was interviewed on Monday during one of the station's programs, Morning Crossfire. He had talked on the killings in southern Kaduna, one of the parts of the northwest region worst hit by banditry. He was later invited by the Department of State Services in Jos on Wednesday and was grilled for 6 hours. The Multinational Joint Task Force says the Boko Haram terrorist group has introduced the use of child soldiers to resuscitate its declining influence in the Lake Chad Basin. The Chief of Military Public Information for Multinational Joint Task Force, Colonel Timothy Antega, disclosed this in a statement issued in Chad on Thursday. Antega said the recruitment of child soldiers by the sect was part of the new strategies following the recent mass surrender by the fighters to the military. He said information on this disturbing development was brought in by intelligence sources and corroborated by concerned individuals and groups a couple of days ago. He added that the Boko Haram terrorists further confirmed the development when they posted pictures of children dressed in military fatigue and holding assault rifles in a video released during the Salah celebrations. According to him, the recruitment of child soldiers is the latest in a retinue of brutal and inhuman tactics deployed by Boko Haram since it began the futile attempt to cause mayhem and overthrow constitutional and social order. The federal government has appealed to world powers not to be weighed by unsubstantiated arguments to deny the country vital platforms and weapons to fight insecurity. The Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, made the appeal on Thursday in Abuja. The minister buttressed the claim, saying certain world powers have refused to even sell certain vital weapons. He appealed to the world powers to provide the country with these sensitive platforms so that the insecurity can be fought more effectively. The minister said for Nigerians to fairly assess the efforts of the federal government in the fight against insecurity, they should compare where the country was pre-2015 and today. He said to better appreciate what the government is doing in the area of security, they should take a global survey to understand that unrest, terrorism, and mindless violence cut across the globe. The Federal High Court in Abuja on Thursday adjourned the trial of former Attorney General of the Federation, Muhammad Adoke, and an Abuja-based businessman, Aliyu Abubakar. The court fixed September 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 as new dates for hearing the case. The trial, which is being presided over by Justice Iyang Eko, was adjourned after the prosecution opened its case by calling 2 witnesses. According to media reports, Mr. Adoke and Mr. Abubakar on August 4 were rearranged by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission on a 14-count charge amended bordering on alleged money laundering and corruption. At a previous sitting on August 11, the prosecutor, Bala Senga, had presented a witness but failed to serve the defendant with the proof of evidence and statement before approaching the court. Mr. Adoke has pleaded not guilty to the charges leveled against him. Women play vital roles in the socio-economic growth and development of any country, and there is need to always support their programs and aspirations so as to have peaceful and better society. This was the submissions of some Nigerians while speaking with our reporter Yusuf Ganiu on the role of women in community development in Nigeria. His reports.
Women play a big role in the sustainability of any community. In today's society, more women are contributing to the family's earnings, while they also work in both formal and informal sectors in order to earn daily living for the growth of their families. This drive by women, according to respondents, can transform a whole community.
For thousands of years, been told to us as women that we dictate our intention or everything that we want to achieve by the clothes that we wear or the way that we speak or how loudly we speak or what point we're trying to make. They go out there, knock on doors and make the change. So we need to start young.
In the past, leadership positions were simply set aside for men, but in recent times, women play a pivotal role in community development, serving in leadership positions.
What we are, we cannot be underestimated for our contribution to our home, to the community, even globally. Don't underrate us, don't downgrade us, because what a man can do, a woman can do better. But we are not even competing with you, but let us work together and make sure the future is brighter for all of us.
Research has shown that education can improve agricultural productivity, enhance the status of girls and women, reduce population growth rates, improve environmental protection, and widely raise the standards of living.
Yeah, numerous. The women nurture the society. You know, the society starts from the home. And in every area where we can help the woman, where we can empower the woman, where we can enable her to perform better in this role of nurturing the society, beginning from the home, you know, it will help in addressing our issues universally as women.
It is very important for community at large to support women programs and aspirations in order to have a peaceful society. Yusuf Ganiyu, Ogtv News.
The number of single-parent families has been on the increase globally. Single parenting is caused by divorce and death, which eventually hinders academic performance of children in schools. In this special report, Moyoluwa Ajayi examines the effect of single parenting on children. The report is presented in this package.
In recent years, there has been a retreat from marriage and a dramatic rise in single-parent families. The single-parent family is no longer seen as a uniquely black phenomenon, but as a problem of national proportions, shared by all social and racial groups.
It could be divorce, either partner deciding or both partners deciding to go their separate ways. And number two, it could be as a result of abandonment. Number three, it could be as a result of deaths. And number four, it could be as a result of unwanted pregnancy, which came about due to, rape.
Children in single-parent families are more likely to experience low level of supervision, which can adversely affect the children's opportunities for growth and development.
And most times, the child gets a one-sided love and upbringing, and this child has resentment towards the absent parent. For instance, if a child is being raised by a single mother, she believes all moms are awesome, they're nice, they're the best, and all fathers are terrible. And if it's the other way around, a child believes all fathers are the best and all mothers are terrible. And such child could have a difficulty, moving along with such gender that is absent in his or her life.
Oftentimes these children, they have, they undergo, there's this kind of problem they have with drug abuse, and also teenage pregnancy. And you also have failures in school. Academic performance is usually, affected because they are not that balanced psychologically. The impact is actually, the effects can be actually devastating because the child suffers most.
Respondents highlight ways by which single parents can keep close relationship with their children.
They have so much going through them. They have so many questions that nobody seems to be answering their questions. So it automatically affects their performance in life. As I said, life happens. You shouldn't neglect your child.
No matter how hurt you are, please do not expose the weakness of the absent parent to your children. My advice to single parent is to please do not expose the weakness of the absent parent to your child. This could cloud the judgment of such child in future.
They call on single parents to maximize the likelihood of success for their children by establishing a quality home environment.
School administrators have expressed concerns over the increasing rate of sexual health-related issues ranging from unsafe abortion, sexually transmitted infections, and unwanted pregnancy due to lack of proper sex education in schools. The fears stemmed out of need to prioritize and promote sexual and reproductive health among school-age children in Nigeria. Shemilore Makwanju has the details.
In Nigeria, 1 out of every 5 women has given birth by age 18, with 57% beginning sexual activity before age 18. Data also shows that 80% of the patients admitted for abortion-related complications were young women, and about 10% of sexually active adolescents have had more than 3 abortions. To eradicate HIV/AIDS and other sexual-related health challenges, school administrators state that secondary school students must be taught on need to abstain from premarital sex.
So, a girl child from age 7, 8, before the body development, my advice is that the earlier the better we give our child sex education, the better for us all to prevent some atrocity in our community. The male child is not left out in this sex education.
Other respondents are of the view that low awareness of reproductive health are major causes of sexually transmitted infections, abortion, amongst others.
Parents need to also step up. We need to educate our children. In the school, at home, show your child where it is not convenient for someone to touch you. Sexual education should not be left for teachers.
They also advised on strict use of law that prevents child marriage in the country. Shemilore Makonju, Ogtv News.
The management of Tai Sholari College of Education, Omo Ijebu, has debunked the rumors being peddled by faceless people on social media and public domain that some staff of the college died due to non-payment of salaries by Ogun State government. A statement by Mrs. Fisayo Olajide, Head Public Relations, noted that the college lost one of her staff to death on Wednesday, 12th August 2020. This is a very unfortunate incident and for which the institution is very pained. The staff concerned, Ms. Olateji Adepolujo of Fine and Applied Arts Department, had been battling with a medical condition of hypertension and diabetes for a long period and had been off and on from work. The college management, the statement says, has been very supportive by allowing him to take some time off from work to thoroughly attend to his medical condition. Events leading to his final departure details that Mr. Adepolujo was referred to the Federal Medical Center Idiaba, Abeokuta for advanced medical treatment from the State Hospital Ijebu-Ode on Monday night due to kidney-related issue. The statement also reacted to the death of Mrs. Benson of the School of Education in June 2020. Late Mrs. Benson, according to the statement, had been battling with cancer for over 5 years and was away from work for almost 1 year. The college allowed her to attend to her health by giving her leave before her demise due to cancer complications. Ditto late Mr. Dele Ashikpa, while Mr. Tajuddin Orokpo died in a lone car accident along Odogbolu Ijebu-Ode Expressway. It should be noted that all these deaths were not related to the college, discharge of official duties, or any form of denial or neglect from college management or government. There is no running from the fact that the college has issues of salary arrears owed by the last administration in Ogun State. But since the coming of this present administration, under the leadership of Prince Dapo Abiodun, the monthly subvention of the college has been very regular, and the college management has been paying the salaries as and when due. This should not become grounds for mischief and distortion or exploiting the unfortunate departure of very diligent colleagues to achieve selfish and twisted motives. A fake lawyer, Adedeji Ebenezer Oluwagbemiga, was arrested on the 5th of August 2020 at Itori Chief Magistrate Court, where he was appearing for a client having convicted and sentenced to 3 years imprisonment on 12th August 2020. The convict was arraigned before Chief Magistrate B.A. Shumori on one count charge of unlawful and illegal appearance as a lawyer, knowing fully well that is not. He first pleaded not guilty, but later changed his plea to guilty when he was confronted with evidence. The Chief Magistrate there and then sentenced him to 3 years in prison with ad labor without option of fine. The convict was arrested during a court session at the Chief Magistrate Court when his conduct does not in any way in tandem with the practice of somebody who has been called to bar, which was also noticed by the magistrate himself. He was subsequently detained at Ewekoro police station, from where he was transferred to the State Criminal Investigation and Intelligence Department for diligent prosecution. On business news, banks' assets rise to 47.82 trillion naira. We'll bring you details shortly. Welcome to the business segment of the news. The banking industry is one of the most important financial institutions in Nigeria and a central nervous system to the economy, with special emphasis on its roles and challenges. Taking a cursory look at online banking fraud with its impact on the development of Nigeria's economy, respondents submitted that all hands need to be on deck in order to curb this menace. Ido Fabajo has the details.
It has been said that fraud is the #1 enemy of business in the world, as no entity or work is immune from it. Banking business has become more complex with the increased advancement of information and communications technology, which has drastically changed the nature and mode of operational procedures of banks in Nigeria. The increasing wave of fraud in the recent years, if not prevented, might pose certain threats to economy and political stability and the survival of financial institutions and the performance of the industry as a whole.
Online banking is supposed to help us be able to have these transactions easier, banking transactions. But because they have become a fraud prone, so to say, a lot of people are now scared to even engage in online banking. But because of so much of this fraud, number one, international transactions are a problem. If you're trying to get a job, when you just say you are Nigerian, it's a problem. The trust factor has entered, because can they trust that when they ask for your details, when they transact money to you per payment, that you would not actually turn out to be a fraudulent person?
Online banking is good. Online banking is progressive. It's a thing that has helped the economy, but the fraud therein has actually adversely affected us. One, the trust that people has in the Nigerian economy is being, it's been derailed. Why? Because when you hear that you can send money from here to here and the money is not being delivered, you begin to feel, oh, can I do that again?
Customers now heavily rely on the internet for major banking business and transactions, which has led to a number of online transactions and has also afforded fraudsters the opportunity to attack customers, thereby create a lot of impact on the development of Nigeria economy.
It has and still weakening the social trust between Nigerians and the government. And if nothing is done to curb this or to eradicate it totally, then many Nigerians will be suffering, because when they need to break out there to actually show what they have, but because of the label corrupt nation, we lose a lot.
So we need to desist from the act of encouraging our children to be fraudulent. Also, we need to inculcate good morals.
Human beings can be very, very careless with how they handle their details. You shouldn't let anybody else know your BVN. You shouldn't let anybody else know your PIN. I'm also guilty of that. A lot of our elderly parents, we don't do enough to educate them on. Somebody sends you a text message and tells you that you should send them your BVN via text. Mom, you don't respond to that.
The loss in funds affects the economy, and it reduced the amount of money available to small or medium-scale firms for developing the economy, which will increase the level of unemployment rates, reduction in GDP, and per capita income of the country, hence the need for stakeholders to curb the menace. Idowu Fabaju, Ogtv News.
Thank you, Idowu. The total assets of the banking sector rose to 47.82 trillion naira as of the end of June. A member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Dr. Rafindadi Sanusi, disclosed this during the last MPC meeting. He also said the report on the banking system stability review showed that despite the challenges posed by the COVID-19 lockdown, the banking system remained sound and resilient. Sanusi said the industry capital adequacy ratio had increased to 15% in June 2020, which meets the industry prudential benchmark. The non-performing loans ratio has declined to 6.4% in June 2020 from 6.6% in April 2020 and 9.36% in the corresponding period of 2019, while total assets of the industry has continued to rise, standing at 47.82 trillion naira as of end June 2020. The total banking industry credit to the economy has continued to increase even during the month of the lockdown, standing at 18.9 trillion naira as of end June 2020. The federal government has resolved that henceforth it will be deducting any illegal fees imposed on mining companies by state government from the allocation of such state. It has therefore directed the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, to begin to implement that directive. The decision was reached at a meeting of the Federal Executive Council presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, disclosed this at the end of the 11th virtual Federal Executive Council meeting in Abuja. Daily crude oil production in Nigeria dropped by 38,000 barrels in July to 1.37 million barrels. A new report by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries has shown. The oil cartel in its monthly oil report for August said the total crude oil production by the 13-member group averaged 23.17 million barrels per day in July 2020, higher by 0.98 million barrels per day month-on-month, according to secondary sources. OPEC and its allies, known as OPEC Plus, agreed in April to an output cut to offset a slump in demand and prices caused by the coronavirus crisis. They decided to cut supply by a record 9.7 million barrels per day for May and June, but the deal was extended in July by 1 month. The group said any member that did not implement 100% of its production cuts in May and June will make extra reductions from July to September to compensate for the failings. We have come to the end of the business segment of the news. Still to come on The World Today, Lebanon's parliament approves sweeping powers for the army. More stories on The World Today. Lebanon Parliament has approved sweeping powers for the army. Also, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris said President Trump has left the U.S. in tatters. Let's now join Olayinka Shodunke for details.
Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden and running mate Kamala Harris have attacked warning President Donald Trump as an incompetent leader who has left the U.S. in tatters. The pair held their first campaign event together a day after Mr. Biden unveiled Ms. Harris as his number 2. President Trump hit back, saying Ms. Harris had dropped like a rock in our own presidential bid. Mr. Biden will face Mr. Trump, a Republican, in November's election. Wednesday event in Delaware was not open to the public, with Mr. Biden, who is 77 years old, citing coronavirus prevention needs. Both candidates walked on stage wearing masks to address a group of